Angolan writer, poet, and journalist Jofre Rocha is the literary pseudonym of Roberto de Almeida, who was born in Feb 1941 in Angola. And he left Angola for Lisbon. So, for those of you that don't know, Portugal colonized Angola. He was a nationalist fighting for the independence of Angola. He was detained, and his political activity saw him sentenced to 18 months in jail. He was a member of the MPLA. So, all my history kids out there, you guys have studied it this year. Should I have made some history videos? Should have. I did history in high school too. So MPLA versus like FNLA. This was the struggle. These guys were the commies, the communists, and these guys were the capitalists. No cap. I don't know. I'm a bit older than you guys. I don't know if I use that in context. But yeah. And so he was a member of the MPLA, and after the country's independence in 75, he was called to hold various positions both in the government and his party. He was also president of Angola since 96. He's low-key on the DL, on the down low, the Mandela of Angola. Hashtag RIP Madiba. So the title, the speaker is returning to his country, and at this stage, he does not know whether it is a voluntary or forceful return. The title relates to the speaker's thoughts of his return to his country. Also, this is not a sonnet. If you say it's a sonnet, I'm going to get a heart attack. I know it has 14 lines, but that doesn't mean it's a sonnet. Just because you study, Chief, it doesn't mean you're going to pass. That's all I'm going to say. I'm joking. You guys will do well. Okay, there's also a lot of enjambment. Enjambment. Oof, I love that word, hey? Enjambment. This is run on lines. Lines that flow into each other. And the poem is divided into 3 stanzas. The stanzas are of unequal length, but it's important to note that in stanza 1, stanza 2, and stanza 3, these are different ideas. The speaker is contemplating his upcoming return to his home country, and the speaker mentions his return from exile and the anguish associated with those who died whilst oppressed. So that features throughout the poem. And he has left his home either by choice or he was forced. So initially, we don't know why. And upon his return home, political activists who were in exile were received with a bouquet of gladiolus flowers. And this was a symbol of their strength and the pride that the nation has for them. And the poem is written from the perspective of an exile. So someone who had to flee their country of birth, almost a refugee. And the poem captures the sentiment of loss, lost opportunity, and lost experience. And he describes his host country as a land of exile and silence. Simply put, our speaker is writing about the lost opportunities, mourning, and sadness brought about by colonialism, exile, and war. So just to go back, this was a proxy war. The MPLA were funded heavily by the Soviets, so the USSR and other communist policy following countries, so China, Cuba, and the FNLA. You think of US and UK. Line 1, when I return, he is absolutely certain that he's going to return to his home country. Land of exile, the country to which he fled, and this conveys his feelings of loneliness and suffering. But as a whole, the land of exile and peace, this is a foreign place where there's no communication, silence, as he does not speak the language. Line 2, do not bring me flowers. This is a very commanding tone, very commanding. Yeah, I know I'm not that neat, hey? That line isn't too straight. Just remember that it's a very commanding tone. So in lines 1 and 2, it forces the reader to ponder these 2 lines. It's just 2 lines. But in stanza 2, the poet gives suggestions as to what can be brought to celebrate his return. Tears, hunger, and mourning. And he wants us to remember the reason for his exile. So in lines 3 and 4, remember if you guys watch some of my videos, I don't like to do line by line analyses sometimes. I think it's better to maybe look at 2 lines as a whole, maybe the entire stanza. And it just brings about a bit more. So bring. This is anaphora. This is an imperative and commanding tone. Do this, do that. So lines 3 and line 4, these 2 lines highlight the fact that he wants to know about the atrocities and terrible things that people saw that cause pain, anger, heartache. All the dues. This is an impossible demand. This is a very impossible demand. Why, you may ask? He knows that he cannot atone for leaving his people. He can't. Dawns, which witnessed dramas. Okay, that line is straight. Dawn is personified as a weeping witness to the tragedy that took place as a result of colonization, and the de-alliteration, de emphasizes the fact that nature too was horrified and sad at the oppression of her people. Dramas, these are events simply of great significance. In lines 5 and 6, the word plaint, it's a plea. Tumid sexes, these are arguments between lovers. Star-studded night, an image of romance, peace, and beauty. Now, in these lines, the speaker emphasizes the sense of separation from loved ones and the need for companionship. The poet highlights the losses experienced due to oppression. Lines 7 and 8, again, a very commanding tone. Bring me. Long emphasizes that their pain and suffering continued for quite some time. Night of sleeplessness. People were worried, concerned about the safety of their loved ones. Mothers are unable to sleep because they are mourning for their sons who have been killed or imprisoned or even went into exile. Bereft. This is to be deprived of something. And many young men, the sons, they were imprisoned or killed. And some young men also went into exile. They were missed by their mothers. Stanza 3. If we look at line 9 and 10, these lines are refrain. They emphasize the speaker's need not to be given flowers. That's how you spell it. Refrain would be a verb. Refrain, I believe the noun, but really it depends, I guess, how you speak. And they emphasize the speaker's need not to be given flowers, as stated in line 1 and line 2. So it's very similar again to line 1 and line 2. That would be line 10. Okay, and we have an ellipsis here, ... This creates a dramatic pause after he says that he does not want flowers. Line 11, bring me, this is another command. Only this, just this. That's tautology here. This is a redundancy, and it's used to emphasize that he wants just one thing. And it also emphasizes his assistance. Line 12, the last wish. Above everything else, the speaker demands to know the actual dreams of those who died in the war of liberation. So all those who had died, what did they want to do? Who did they want to be? What were their dreams, goals, and aspirations? Who were they before they were robbed by colonialism, by proxy wars, by the bigger nations using smaller nations to fight their own battles? Who were they? Daybreak, this is the start of a new day. And, well, the beginning of something new. Lines 13 and 14, I forgot to draw my little rainbow. I hate when this happens. Do you guys see this? I always hate when it happens. This image shows that these men and women were still eager to fight for their country. This is wingless stone in hand. And he views these people as the real heroes as they fought a difficult and hopeless battle. Line 14, a thread of anger, snaking. Those who died fighting died angry, and they were not able to fight against the oppressors effectively. And even though they do not fight, they still carry the anger in their hearts, and we see it in their eyes. Their sacrifice needs to be remembered. That which made them angry enough to fight needs to be remembered, and that is the only gift he wants when he returns. So we've got quite a few themes here. The sentiment of loss, lost opportunity, lost experience. It's a poem about exile. It highlights the fact that true war heroes of liberation will never have the opportunity to come back because, well, they might just pay the ultimate price. We also have themes of political and social injustice. Tones, 3 tones, a very earnest tone, then a nostalgic tone, and then humble. That's an earnest tone. That's nostalgic. And this is going to be humble. And the mood throughout the poem, the mood is pensive. This means to engage in or reflect and think about serious issues.